10-0 in the turnover battle the last 3 games. How do you feel about that?
Good. Hopefully, it continues. But we've been doing the same things just as far as harping on it, and we've been getting them.
How does it all of a sudden, I know you say you're saying the same things, doing the same things, but how do you go from whatever it was, you're not very many in the first couple games, all of a sudden the last 2 games you have 9? How does the switch kind of flip there?
I don't have the answer to that because we've been doing we've been doing the same stuff every week. Turnover circuit, we harp on it, but we've been getting them.
I mean, did you put any more emphasis on it after the first couple games when you guys weren't getting very many? Did you?
We talked about it a lot more because we expect to get them. So, we harped on it more, but, as far as me doing anything as a coach, it's not me.
It's kind of common sense, I guess, but, Coach Harsin was saying earlier in the season, if you don't win the turnover battle, usually you're not going to win the game. I know it's an obvious answer, but when you guys are winning the turnover battle 10-0 in the last 3 games, obviously you've won all 3. What does that do for this team when you guys are giving the ball back to the offense as many times as you are?
Momentum. We're feeling good about ourselves on defense, and then our offense, they're getting the ball more. I always say our job on defense is to score number 1 and then to get the ball back to our offense, as much as possible. So the more they get the ball, the more they'll have, their chances to score. So that's our job. It's so funny because one thing I do harp on is we don't want to play defense. I don't want to be out there for a 10-play drive. So let's get on the field and let's get off the field, fast, So we've been doing that. I think we had 11, and I may be wrong, you guys can correct me, 3 and outs last game, which is huge for us to get on, get on the field and then get off. So, we're harping on getting off the field.
When it comes to Darian Thompson, he's been an all-conference safety, in the past or whatnot, but it seems like he's taken his game to another level. Go back and watch. He was almost running Hawaii's routes better than Hawaii was running Hawaii's routes at times there.
Right.
How is he taking his game to another level?
He's just a student of the game. He studies film. I think he understands that, through God's grace and staying healthy, he'll have a chance to play at the next level. I think he understands that. So I think that, his approach to the game is being a pro. He comes in here and he watches film on his own. I don't have to ask him to watch film. He already knows what's going on before he even gets our game plan. So, and he's not the only guy that's doing that. So, with him being here for so long and being a veteran, I think that there's so many guys on our team that are doing that, and it kind of bleeds through, our whole team and our whole group.
He said last year, a little bit earlier this year, when we were talking with him, that he did test. He put his paperwork in just to get feedback with the NFL last year and suggested that he should come back. Did you talk with him at all throughout the whole process? And he said he was fine with coming back. He just wanted to know.
He asked me what I thought, and I gave him my opinion. Yeah. So, I gave him what I thought, and he was okay with what I said to him. And at the same time, with him coming back, I felt like, as a coach, there's certain things that he needs to improve on. And I told him I felt like it was my job to help him, fix those things. And he's been doing a good job with that.
Yeah, are you seeing him fix those things? Or
Yeah.
Is
he
he capable of playing in the NFL?
I'm not a scout or a GM, but, I think he is. But, I'm not writing those checks, but, I think he can play.
With him and Dante, look at the interception those guys have had through their career. What sets them apart to be able to do something that make it look easy, something that is really, really hard to do out there?
They can catch, DBs are receivers that can't catch. No, but, they just have a knack for finding the ball. I think it just comes back to studying the game, knowing your opponent, playing with good technique, good eyes, and then just being there, and then the last thing, like I said, is catching the football.
we joke in the press box. One of them gets an interception. The other one's got to be right behind him. But
Right.
I mean, it's kind of uncanny at this point the way they've kind of kept up with each other for the last 6-8 months or whatever it's been.
I actually wish Dante was in the lead right now, because if he was, he would have had an interception for a touchdown on Saturday. So I actually was hoping he would be the leader, but it hit his hands and then it bounced off. But they're competing against each other, and I don't know if they go into the game going, okay, I'm gonna win. But hey, if that's what it takes, I'm good with that, So
What does Colorado State do offensively, and what kind of problems do they give you?
they have a very good offensive line. Their offensive line is physical. Their running backs and their tight ends, their running backs are quick. They're fast. They hit the hole very fast. They make guys miss. They have 5 or 6 receivers that play for them that all do a good job, and so, with the run game, and if they can establish the run, that can cause a lot of problems for us up front end on the back end. So, we have to stop the run this week.
What about Higgins in particular? And when you go up against a guy who could potentially be playing on Sundays in the near future, I mean, does that fire up your guys to have a chance to go up and match up with a guy like that?
I hope so. It has to, because he's a pro. So he's a good receiver. He runs good routes. He's playing well right now also. So, yeah, we will have a challenge. It doesn't get easy, fellas. I mean, I turned on the film. I watched him a little bit against Utah State, and I'm sitting up here going, every week, like I said, I keep saying for a defensive coach, it doesn't get easy these days because they're a good offense.
Speaking of Dante, he's obviously a great athlete, but he wasn't blessed with a ton of size. He's not the heaviest guy or the tallest guy. What does he do well physically, technique-wise, that allows him to always be in a position to seem to get an interception?
He just has that knack. He has that chip on the shoulder, to be a guy that, like you said, isn't so big. He kind of has that chip where, I think that's kind of his strength, that because he's not the biggest, he feels like he can play with anybody. Like I said, his advantage is, and most of our team is, the way that our guys approach every week as far as studying film. I think it gives those guys a huge advantage.
You look at last week's game. You allow under 100 yards rushing, under 100 yards passing. It seemed like you had an entire defense that was very in tune with what Hawaii was doing. How much are you guys benefiting from being a veteran defense finally? I mean, top to bottom, a lot of guys.
Second year in the system, we didn't lose anybody on our defensive side of the ball. So our staff is back. I think they understand us as a staff. We understand them as players. It's our job to get those guys in the right spot so now they can make plays. I think we're doing that. I think they understand, like I said, they understand concepts and they understand what we're trying to do. And then we've moved on from teaching them the scheme, and now we're teaching them offense. Okay, we're teaching them what the offense is going to try to do to certain calls. So once you can move, past where you're just teaching them what they're doing, and now you can teach them what the offense is doing, that kind of helps you out also.
If you could maybe just go a little further about you talk about concepts and stuff and route concepts and stuff. I don't know if you could just elaborate on that. If a team's doing this, then it kind of shows that they might also be doing this. Or I don't know if you just could elaborate on that.
Yeah, well, you can show them. The one thing is you can show them kind of in this certain look you're going to get this run play, and then off that look here's what you can get as far as a pass play. So once guys can kind of understand that, and now they're looking at what the offense is doing instead of worrying about, okay, this is my job, I need to get lined up here and I need to do this. You already know what you're doing, so now you can look at what the offense is doing, and now you can go from A, B, C. You on the L,
right.
K, NOP, MNOP.
Is that an elite level to hit? I mean, do you have to be able to do that?
With a veteran group, yes. Because it's just like anything else. It's like school. Once you go from first grade, you're going to second grade. So now once you get guys that's in the system for a long time and they learn the system, they're going to advance more as far as what they know and what they understand. So having that veteran group, I think, helps that out.
I I would say sometimes, when you guys come up with a veteran or a performance like that, it might seem like coach speak at times when you say that you can get better, but it seems like there is a desire to go through with that fine-tooth comb and even find those little mistakes and shrink the gap, and maybe that's what is really good to what is great.
Right. Yeah. It was some run fit issues where if they had the quarterback had some throws where he had guys open if they just missed, so those are things that need to be fixed. But as a coach, there's no game that's ever perfect. No matter how one side played or the other, there's still things to fix. And we're not there yet. And like I said, every team is excited for us to come and play us. So they're always going to look at whatever we're doing bad, right, and try to hit that. And so, we need to improve on everything that we're doing.
Early in the season, you scoffed at the idea of this defense being called dominant. You said they hadn't done enough to be called a dominant defense yet. Are you comfortable with this defense being called dominant now with the performances they're putting together?
Not yet. We still have. I'm worried about Saturday, and like I said, all it takes is one game for a team to have that, that one explosive game, and now your confidence is kind of shot. So, to me, it's about one game at a time, one day at a time. It's Monday. Let's focus on Monday. Let's focus on Tuesday. And I think if they can keep that attitude, we'll be fine.
How did Cam Miles do in his first game as a starter?
He played well. He played solid. Yeah.
It's been, I know you guys gave up a couple longer touchdowns to Virginia, but it's been 9.5 quarters since you guys have really allowed an opponent to drive on you and take a snap inside the red zone. That's a long time without letting the team, have a prime scoring opportunity. It would seem.
Mm-hmm.
Is that impressive? That's.
Yeah, that's impressive. Because like you said, to me, going back, if you hold any team scoreless these days, you're doing a good job. But like I said, it's college football now with tempo and no huddle and all these different styles and all that. It's kind of hard to really sit your hat on the last game. You kind of gotta to move forward to your next opponent because they're gunning for you, and every team is gunning for you, and every team has a player or have guys that are pretty good, and it's, the head coach, obviously he's a guy that was in a conference that, he knows how to coach. So their offense, to me, when I look at their offense, it reminds me a little bit of Georgia, with the power run game, and then they're going to take shots on the field. So, we got our work cut out for us.
Did you play against them when you were at A&M?
No, I didn't play against Georgia when I was at A&M.
2 more questions. Solid.
Good. Thank you, guys.